Good day, everyone. This is Tom Cooney. I'm the Director of Customer Support at GitLab. Wanted to kind of kick this group combo off. Everybody should have access to the agenda. If there are any questions, you can put those in the conversation doc or conversation agenda doc. Let's see, just kick it off. So from a combo perspective, we've hired 8 new support folks since our last conversation, which was about 2 months ago. A lot of kudos out to the recruiting team and the support team for kind of working through a lot of candidates and picking the fundamentally cream of the crop, if you will. A good portion of those, over half of those hires were in EMEA. So we are actually in the process of making offers and getting offers accepted to 2 new EMEA managers. I had initially intended on 1, but I think we're going to grow that a lot faster than I first expected. So that's in process, and we still have 3 additional support managers that we'll be looking for throughout the remainder of this fiscal year. So a lot of recruiting going on, a lot of hard work. Appreciate Cindy and the recruiting team, and again, all the support folks that have helped in getting all these people on board and getting them onboarded. So with that, let me go to the convo, see if there are any questions. Not yet. So the rest of the support deck focuses a lot on what we think is the primary, I think, driver for customer satisfaction, and that is our SLA performance. So Lee has put in some excellent graphs that are helping us identify where we have the most breaches so that we can focus on, what's the right approach in those areas. He's also listed several things going on in that area to help us improve in that SLA achievement. And then the final slide is, and after the couple of metrics around how we've done performance-wise, which I think over the last month or so has been excellent improvement in reaching our target. Last slide is a bunch of other things going on in support. There's no lack for things to do beyond our reactive ticket aspects. So no questions yet. Anybody want to verbalize how their Monday went? Mine and Lee's were pretty busy.
Yeah, that's true, Tom. Thanks. Busy, feeling good, but I mean, I say we give this group a few more minutes. If they don't have any other questions, we'll give them some time back and make this coming along. Good. Really excited about the stuff we're working on with BreachBot and trying to make our processes more efficient anywhere we can, right? Efficiency gains have huge impacts for our team and our work when we're fighting the clock. So I'm very excited for those kind of things. So moving on those, but
cool. I have a quick question. People might be interested in this, but the things you're doing to present at other support groups, you want to touch on that a little bit, just from a
meaning conferences or
conferences?
Yeah, so I'll be speaking at GitLab Commit about some fun stuff. So that's one thing. But then I'll be in Boston at a support leadership summit there. All of these are opportunities to recruit. And then I'll also be speaking in Australia in APAC, another opportunity to recruit, talking about, we have a very dynamic and unique support team. And one of the things that's really valuable is our transparency really helps us. So shout out to everybody on the call. Transparency is huge for our group. And I'll just share a quick anecdote with Zendesk. When we worked with their support team, they're a product we use. We got all the way up to their tier 3 support, and they told us we can't even see the code base. We can't even look at the code to tell you what's going on. And that was after going through tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 with Zendesk. That was very frustrating. So we have a very different model and try and operate very differently, and we're trying to export that out as much as possible and understand what other teams are doing as well. So exciting stuff there.
Cool. Thanks, Lee.
Any questions? One. Okay, cool. Brandon wants to know, what tools are we using beyond Zendesk? I'll actually answer this. Right now, it's mostly Zendesk. We have a strong sync to Salesforce because we want to use that as our source of truth, right? So we're using a little bit of Salesforce. Beyond that, GitLab is a huge tool. But I will say that literally the last 2 days, I have spent a majority of my time fantasizing about replacing Zendesk. And then the second fantasy of like, well, I guess I'd have to build it myself, right? That's when you start going real crazy when you're like, I'm just going to build it myself. So Brendan, I don't think that there's any tool right now that excites me. I'm not sure if Lyle or any of the other managers are on the call, but I think that there is an evolution of support based on what we do at GitLab that could be interesting to develop, but nothing caught my eye yet. But that's just me. Tom, any thoughts from you or anyone else?
Yeah, I'll add to, I mean, there are a number of, and I think in the deck, there's a couple of references to it, but there are a number of tools that have been built by support folks that we use. We are also looking at a tool to help us accept large files from customers through Zendesk tickets. It's currently we're looking at Send Safely, but I think there are other tools that will integrate with Zendesk that allow us to get very large files a lot easier. So that's one piece. Zendesk, as a tool, provides a lot of different capabilities from an access perspective. So they've got chat, they got voice, all these other things that we aren't using today, and I don't anticipate in the near term to be using. So we haven't really looked at other tools around that. One area that we are looking is what can we do better around search in front of customers submitting tickets. So are there AI types of tools? Zendesk has a very good knowledge management capability, but again, most of that content stays within Zendesk. So we're trying to look at how can we get a tool in front of customers to quickly search our docs based on what their symptoms are or whatever, and potentially find the answer to their problem without submitting a ticket. So common reference is ticket deflection to that capability. So there are a number of things we're looking at leveraging. Another tool we use, but I think it's generally used in GitLab and in Infra, is PagerDuty. So that's another piece that we tag onto from Infra's license to that. Use Calendly. We use obviously use GitLab. We track the defects against the product in issues in GitLab. So there's a lot of different pieces and parts that we integrate within Zendesk.
Okay. Yeah, the other reason I was asking is if there's anything that you all are using and you really love and you want to talk about. We're working to try and get like visibility from Slack and Zoom and other tools we use just to help get our story out. So my understanding of what you guys are using and want to speak about. So in this case, probably important to be something that you are big fans of. But if there's some areas there that you guys really love and want to talk about, if we can be of help, that was some of my question. And two, just understanding generally what y'all use. So thank you.
Good. Cool. Thanks, Brandon. Francis.
Yeah, so my question kind of related to that, is there any conversation or any vision of evolving GitLab issues to be a replacement for Zendesk?
I have suggested this in the past, and we are using it for a subset of issues. So right now, our GDPR related deletions, like those all come through a GitLab issue tracker, and it works okay, but there's a number of limitations in the product that we just can't easily overcome, like at least in the short term. So things like even the internal comments are something that just doesn't exist in the product right now, let alone like all the metrics that we can pull out from Zendesk. So as much as I would love to, it would be really great. But I would say the biggest blocker of all is how do you support GitLab when GitLab goes down? Like that one right there. Like we'd have to run an entirely different GitLab in order to support GitLab.com with GitLab. So yes, there is thoughts, but right now it's just not something that we can do.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Francis. Sophie?
Hi. I was just wondering if somebody could explain what I'm looking at on the heat maps on slide 5.
Sure. I'll dive in. I'll see if I can share my screen. I have a zillion tabs open, so let me just try and get it on a clean window pane here. I'll talk about it, and then I'll see if I can bring this up. The one graph is month over month, And then the other graph is week over week, so a little bit more fidelity there. And the intention here is SLA is a capture of time. Did we do it in time? And so the current graph that you're looking at is based in Eastern Standard Time because I generated it. So all of the times at the top are Eastern Standard. I know our default is PST, but Zendesk as a software tool defaults it to the user's time zone. So that's what we're looking at. Give me 2 seconds to pull up this slide. Great. So yeah, basically anything that is red means it was a breach, and anything that is blue or green means that we were more successful. Give me 1 second. There we go. So you should be seeing my slides. So the number that you see there is the number of tickets that were updated, and the color represents how many of those at that time were breached, right? So if we go on and look at the month over month, we see that the majority of our breaches are happening outside of America's hours, right? Into APAC hours is where we start to see the bans. APAC is a huge region with a large ocean of where there are no people working because it's a giant ocean. So we're trying to figure out ways in which time overlaps with location. That team is hiring at a rapid pace. As you saw, we are hiring other places, but APAC is proving to be challenging as well. So as we hire, this story here, we can see from last August to now, we can start to see it kind of push out. That's been as we've hired in APAC, it started to push out more, which is great. And then this 12-week, week over week is kind of the same story, but trying to see it at a more granular level. And I'm going to be reviewing these weekly with the team. I'm actually today trying to set up an auto issue creator so that every week it'll have first reply time analysis, and we could start to have an analysis report that will help us dictate our actions. And this is really helpful. And we can see, right, that there are pockets of times where it hits us in other spots where 3 weeks ago at 9 a.m. Eastern time, we missed, we just whiffed. And that's something that we're trying to understand when, where, and how that happens, and what we can do to be more anti-fragile, right? That's the interesting thing. I'll pontificate for one more second. The first thought is, okay, we'll just expand it to the whole team. The whole team will be responsible, but then that introduces bystander effect, which is a new type of fragility. So how do we build a process that gives you ownership, authority, and is not fragile? And that's kind of where we're at right now, just finding the fragile spots and trying to make it anti-fragile. So, Sophie, does that help? Yeah.
Okay, no other questions in the doc. Anybody else want to verbalize a question, or should we count the time down?
What can sales do for you?
I can answer this really, really a lot. All right, we're gonna start the treatise right now. No, the most important thing that you can do is make sure that your accounts in Salesforce have the correct support level. Just this past week, we found one, we reached out to sales, we heard nothing back. The customer opened a ticket, it was the wrong support level. The customer complained that they got bad support and it wasn't premium and it wasn't what they expected. And we saw that they were on basic support. So we never would have been able to give them premium. So if I can instill anything in your brain, it's that like maybe bi-weekly or monthly, just look in Salesforce and say, are your customers all the right support level that they should be? Because we synchronize that data to Zendesk. And if that data is wrong in Salesforce, then we'll be wrong and we will always fail. Lisa and I have done a huge amount of work in the last 2 weeks to make sure that those accounts are getting synchronized appropriately. We fixed something like 3,000 accounts that were wrong, right? So just something to pay attention to as we're working. That will set us up for success. Lyle, anything else come to your mind?
Long delays from Cambodia.
Also,
that was
go ahead,
long
Lyle.
delays from my brain. Just long delays from my brain. I can't think of anything off my head, but well, we can write up the full treatise and we'll pass it along with signatures, tack it to your door.
The other thing I'll add, Lise put in the chat, I saw, we have a problem right now where there are 130 duplicated accounts in Salesforce. This is quite small for the amount of accounts we have, but those duplicate accounts wreak havoc on our syncing system. So if you are working on accounts, please try not to duplicate them. We're working with sales ops right now to figure out a system so that that won't be a problem going forward. But understand that we need to make sure that accounts are not duplicated so that there's no confusion on support level and sync and figuring out things there. There are a couple of open issues. Lisa, if you can add them to the agenda doc where the comments are, I think that would be helpful.
I think we have one in the final deck, the final slide too, is one of the Salesforce, I think. But I think the other piece, there's another piece here, and that is if there are areas of confusion when you're in a sales opportunity around what we do for support that isn't clear in the transparency that we try to provide in the handbook, then we'd like to know that so we can fix it and explain it to the customer before they go into implementation and production with potentially false expectations. So that would be another element. Thanks, Brad.
All right, I got another one. If you had one fantasy change in GitLab, the product, what would you change as a support team?
This is a toughie.
Well, while he's thinking, I've got a standard one, I think, from every application anybody ever uses, and that is on error codes. Take error codes into context and provide a potential reason for that error code to have happened. Today, we have to do a lot of log analysis and research for different types of error codes and associate a particular error code that may mean several different things. So if the application could put it in context as to why it happened, I think that would help support end customers immensely.
Yeah, I like that one a lot, Tom. I'm glad your answer was better than mine. I'm pretty happy, but I think that that's one that is something that we're trying to work towards. We have a long-running issue in support where we're trying to figure out a way. What we use correlation ID under the hood to do some stuff, and if we expose that better, then it could make us make things faster. But that's something. Yeah. I think I would say, Brad, that the other thing to think about is I've always described support engineering as our customer is the GitLab administrator, right? So we're dealing with a subtly different experience than the GitLab end user even. So I think that one of the things, I think we're doing a lot for end user, and I think we're doing well for the administrator. I think a little bit of a balance there would probably also serve our customers well, but I'm speaking from my perspective, right? Truth is a prism, that's my angle on it, so.
I have another question. Does support track what that first interaction on a support ticket is? I'm just asking because it seems like a lot of times that first interaction is asking for logs or more information. And is there something that we can be doing better so that our customers give quality support tickets the first time?
That's a great question, Sophie. I think that again, I'll try to tie it together. My was Lee's words, fantasy is as a customer experiences something. If the application doesn't provide kind of that context as to why, then when they come into support and say, "Oh, I'm seeing this error," we have something in front of them that searches and then provides more data about what that error might be. And if none of these suggestions solve it, submit these things, right? So you're right. A lot of our first responses we could also improve without just the list to say, well, here's why we need this list. But the way I look at it is every interaction with the customer, if we put that in closer and closer to the customer from an automation perspective, there's shrinkage of the resolution time, right? Potentially to zero ticket deflection again. So that's where I think we can evolve what we do, how we do it, based on context and this artificial intelligence, if you will, or search capability or whatever. But all of that requires, sufficient content to be able to pull that to the customer.
Yeah, Sophie, I think that's a great thing that I can pull some data on to see what our first response is often asking for. I think that that's a good, it'll be a wide area, but we'll see what we see trend-wise. There's a video on our Unfiltered, the support engineering debugging techniques. We talk about unclear problem description and getting logs 99% of the time. We have a tool that we're going to be bundling with GitLab called GitLab SOS. If you bundle GitLab, or if you use GitLab SOS to give us just the logs across the board, that will be super helpful. There's probably, a small minority of cases where logs don't help. So logs first would be super, super helpful. And yeah, that's something that we want to help with as well, understanding how customers can work better with us. So great question, Sophie.
So I've got an idea based on kind of the last 3 answers to questions. A previous company, we started to develop a call home / customer portal. So one of the biggest time sucks for administrators is downloading the logs, uploading the logs, copy and pasting the descriptions, etc. So combining call home with automatic support ticket creation, automatic support, log upload analysis, putting some machine learning behind it. So customers get answers. So if an error does kick off, they've got, or they're proactively informed. So we're opening the tickets on their behalf on errors. So interesting that the last 3 answers to questions kind of all revolved around the same thing, but no real drive to proactive. I don't know. Is that on anybody's radar?
It's an interesting challenge. I think the nature of a lot of our customer deployments are ones that are isolated from the world or private network or things like that, where phoning home is difficult, or they'll consider that a backdoor to their infrastructure. Many would probably want to turn it off. But I think that we're trending towards that with tools like GitLab SOS, where it's giving us all of the information we need. And now it's just getting to that point where it's saying, like, automating that and getting it to tell us the right things at the right time. But yeah, I'm not pressing on that hard. I don't know if other managers are or are pushing on that, but it seems reasonable.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I've used that in past worlds, but it was much less. I have much less of secure situations or whatever. And I know engineering and product are looking at how we can better help self-manage customers in monitoring and alerting and providing those tools. So I think that's a first step to identifying if we do find an issue or a problem. How do we get that into the hands of people that can help? So the first piece is getting that capability in the product, which is, I think, what they're working
on. The thing I'll add there as well, Brad, is Prometheus is huge. The work from Andrew Newdigate and co around alerting and monitoring and graphing and forecasting in Prometheus is going to be huge to help us kind of be a little bit more proactive. That's all coming down the pipe to self-managed, which we're really excited about. That's something that I am like jumping around in my seat for. That's going to be incredible to help our customers. So those types of systems are going to give us a little more proactivity as well.
Cool. So I think we're at time. I appreciate everybody's participation after a relatively slow start, and certainly appreciate early or maybe late night Cambodia access. Thanks, Lau. All right, bye everybody. Thank you.